Hey, what's up guys, this is Rohan and in this video we're gonna talk about the basics of X Particles. So X Particles is a third-party application which is used for particle simulation and stuff like that, and if you are seeing this video, of course you know about it, that's why you clicked on it. But I just said in case anyone wanted to know. If you don't have it, you can download from the Insidium website. You will get a lot of other tools on their website like mesh tools and stuff like that. There's a lot of other cool tools you have for motion graphics and stuff like that, but the main thing is X Particles right there. Of course I cannot cover everything in a single video because X Particles is a vast topic and it would require a lot of time. I know a lot of guys have like 10-20 hour courses on X Particles and stuff like that, maybe even more than that. So having everything summed up in this much time, it's just impossible. I just talked about things which can help you get started, but if you want to go in details and do like a specific thing or stuff like that, you can of course watch other courses and stuff like that, but this will help you get started. But this will be more than enough, and what I would recommend is to kind of experiment with this. All right, if you experiment, you can do a lot of stuff in this. I also kind of learned it a lot by experimenting, and it's really fun to experiment in X Particles, So without any further ado, let's dive right into it. Alright, so we are in Cinema 4D, and for using X Particles, what you have to do is click on Insidium. Now if you have installed this properly, you might have this option. Alright, X Particles is from Insidium, which is a company that owns a lot of other things as well. For creating particles, what you have to do is go on X Particles, then click on XP Emitter, and let's play it. And you already see particles coming out of this emitter, and it's really easy. I have used Houdini as well, and I'm currently using Houdini a lot, and I have to tell that X Particles is way easier than Houdini. Like in Houdini you have to make so many nodes and stuff like that. Here in X Particles you just have to click, do some settings, and boom, you have with like good results. It's really user friendly, and they have implemented this pretty well in Cinema 4D. Cinema 4D has its own dynamic systems and stuff like that. They also have Emitter, and but X Particles is just a better version. It just provides better quality results. You can do a lot more than what's given with Cinema 4D. And by the way, Cinema 4D is also bringing pyro, and they already have soft body simulation, stuff like that. But X Particles is doing especially this particle system a lot better than Cinema 4D, and they have a lot more options to control forces and stuff like that. What can we do with this emitter? Now there's multiple things. First is that it's going in the Z plus direction. You can change the direction. You can do the X plus, it will go in this direction. All right, normally I use in Y plus direction because most of the times I just want to emit above, so I mostly use Y plus, but it's your choice, wherever you want the particles to go. And what you see here is that, and what you see on default is that the motion is pretty linear. Let me just increase the time, so that you can see properly. As you can see, all the particles are basically same. They are traveling in the same speed and they possess the same quality. So that's what you get on default. All right, now let's talk about the emitter shape. So this is a rectangle, right? You can see this is a rectangle. I can scale it and it can emit particle like this, and you can change the emitter shape. So let's change to circle. You can increase the radius and you can decrease the radius, whatever you want, and see the particles are coming from the circle. We can also do ellipse. Now ellipse is pretty different than a circle because it does not have only a single radius, but it has two. So it's kind of oval shaped, I would say. Sphere is like basically it will throw in 360 direction. All right, every single direction. See, then we have box again, like that, but it's not 360, but it's throwing particles in, how many faces are there? 1 2 3 4 5 6 faces, right? So it's throwing particles in 6 directions. You can do that. You have cylinder, and now it's cylinder, what's gonna happen, it's gonna throw from the side. Yep, like that. It's not gonna throw from the top ones, alright, the top side. It's not gonna throw from the top and the bottom side. Then we have torus. Now with torus, it throws from the outer areas of the torus, alright. It's not gonna throw inside of it. It's gonna throw mostly outside. And you can also have an object which you can use to emit particles, you know. So I can, let's suppose we make a platonic, alright. Now we can emit from this as well. What you have to do is select an object and then put the platonic in this object. Now see. Now with platonic, you might see that it's throwing the particles in pretty weird way, you know, it's throwing from a single point. The reason is we have selected here polygon center. So what you have to do is we have to select the polygons. Alright, now see. Boom. Now it's good, right? It's throwing from all the polygons. I don't know how many polygons are there in this platonic. I have never counted actually. So it's throwing from all those sides. And there's multiple options you can emit from. And there's not much difference between polygons and polygon area, you know. Then we have points. Points is basically from the points. You can see the points here. These are the points. So it's pretty easy to understand that. Then we have edges. I know you know what's gonna happen from the edges. It's gonna throw from the edges like that. For now, that's what you wanna know. Now let's get back to the rectangle emitter and just delete this platonic. We are not gonna get in deep, like really deep. I'm just gonna cover every single property from the top. Then we have width, alright. And this is basic, and then we have this width and height. Basically, I already talked about it, you know, this and that, you know, it's the same right here. We have H angle. Now what H angle is, I will tell you, alright. Let me show you. Normally it throws the particles this way. Now if I do the H angle, you see what's gonna happen, alright. Now it's giving some angle. If you see, you know, it's throwing outwards a little bit on this H, you know, on the H angle. You can do that on the V angle as well. Now it's gonna throw from this angle and this angle. It's gonna have a little bit of, you know, angle on it. See, as I said, it's gonna create a V. Now then we have the edges only, and you can understand what edges only mean. It's just gonna throw the polygon from the edge. Pretty easy to understand that. Yep, there's a hole in between, you know. Alright, so let's move on. Emission. Emission is basically how the particles are emitted, you know. On default, it's set on rate, which is the emitter is constantly emitting these many particles in a frame, and it's pretty linear, you know. It's not changing. It's not having a variation on default. So for now, the birth rate is 1000, meaning 1000 particles are born in a second. Alright. You can increase the variation, meaning sometimes it's gonna be little bit above, 20 particles above or 20 particles below, you know. So it's not gonna be same every single time. So that's that. You can keep it at 0 because it does not change that much, because 20 particles mean nothing in 1000, right? Even if there's like 20 more particles in a second, who's gonna realize that? If I do like 1000 more, then it's gonna make some difference. Now let's move on with the pulse mode. It's pretty easy to understand what pulse is doing. It throws a second and then it stops. Then it throws and it stops, like a pulse, like a heartbeat, you know. See, in intervals. And you can modify that from here. Length 1 frame, meaning it will shoot like 1 frame, and then interval 30 frame, meaning it will stop 30 frame after that. So 1 frame it will shoot, after 30 frames it will shoot again. You can change that from here, like suppose 15 frames first and then 60 frames interval. Now you'll see. Easy, right? So let's revert it back. Now let's move to short. Now short is pretty similar to pulse, but the only difference it only shoots once, alright? That's the only thing. You cannot shoot it multiple times, it's just for a single time. So if you want to do that, then use the short. And you can tell how much the duration should be of the single shot. So let's do it like 30. Then it will shoot like for 30 frames. Then after 30 frames it will stop. So then you have different shot types in here as well. All right, regular shot type. Now regular I'm going to talk about when I talk about this regular mode next, you're going to understand it. For now, what I mean is that the regular ones, just, you know, there is no you can see a pattern when you when I turn on the shot type to regular. You can see a pattern. It's like column and rows. It's not random. That's for regular. Then we have hexagonal. Regular is pretty similar. All right. And then you can actually jitter. Let's jitter XY. Now what you can see here is, as I said, because in regular it gives a pattern, you can kind of randomize that pattern so that it does not look like a pattern. You can kind of randomize how the particles are shot so that it does not give, you know, like a pattern. You can do that with regular as well as hexagonal. On the Z direction as well you can do that. All right. Then we have spacing. So I'm going to talk about this in this regular hexagonal mode, because it's pretty similar to what we see in that. All right, so let's move to emission type regular. Now, as I said, in regular it's not gonna stop. It's just gonna keep, you know, spawning again and again like the rate. It's not based on how many particles are spawned in like a second. It's based on spacing. So it's gonna spawn unlimited amount of particles. All right, how much it can. There's no limit to it, and it will be based on the spacing. So if you increase the spacing, meaning it will spawn less particles because there's more space between, you know, particles. But when you decrease the spacing, meaning when there's very little space between, then there's gonna be more particles, right? So I'll show you. First, let's turn this jitter XY. Jitter is basically for kind of giving more randomness to, you know, the particles. So now let's see. 100. You can see that there is some gap between these particles, right? You can see gap. Now if I decrease the spacing, you're gonna see that gap being decreased. Let's do to like 50. Start again. Alright, now you can see that the gap is pretty low compared to what it was before, but keep in mind that when you decrease that, it's gonna take more computing power because there's more particles which are being generated. Now let's try doing with one, and don't do it one. All right, I'm just gonna, for this video, I'm just showing you how it looks like when it's on one, you know, but don't do it. It's gonna take a lot of computing power and no one does it, guys. Believe me. See how slow it is. Pretty laughable. Let's stop. And my whole Cinema 4D is lagging right now. I cannot do anything. It's pretty laggy. I can't even show you, you know, what's happening. The reason is because when you decrease the spacing, like when you go to this much in spacing, 1%, there's so many particles that are generated that my whole, you know, Cinema 4D is basically dying right now, you know. So let's just switch it back to like 10 or something, but still it's gonna be pretty low. So I think with 10 it's gonna work pretty fine, but if you go in that territory like 1 or something like that, you know, it's way too low. Now here you can see it's pretty, you know, still here you can see that there's very low gap. So you don't even have to go to that, you know, 1%. It's like useless in my opinion, because most of the times 10% is gonna be more than enough, and you know, it's just fine, gonna work fine. So there's that. Let's increase to 400%. There's gonna be a lot of gap between the particles. See who does it, but you know, just for showing. Let's go back to 100 default, and here comes emit all frames. Now these emit all frames full lifespan, this is similar in all the modes, rate and stuff like that. Emit all frames basically means that it's emitting throughout the whole animation. All right, it's never gonna stop if this is checked. And if you uncheck this, then you have the option to kind of manually select what the start and what's the end. So here it's 90 frames. So let's see what's gonna happen. There you go. When it reaches the 90th frame, it's gonna stop, you know, producing more particles. Same to start limit. If I change it to like 10, it's not gonna emit any particles till that point, till the 10th frame. Then from 10, it's gonna start doing it, and on 90th it's gonna stop. And one more thing, again, when you are doing this particle simulation, what you should remember is that you cannot rewind in it. All right, it's a simulation. You cannot rewind unless you have cached the animation. All right, I'm gonna talk about caching as well. But if you have not cached it, any simulation does not go back. It's not like an animation, right? It's a simulation. Computer is calculating that simulation, but it's not calculating in a reverse order. It's calculating like it should be calculated in real life. All right, it does not go reverse. So what you have to do is, like, you don't go back, you have to start again and then, you know, simulate it again. You can't do like this and 40 and start again. It's gonna be like really inaccurate and it's gonna give some pretty weird result. So go back again to 0 and then start it again every single time. Keep that in mind. And now let's check the emit all frames back. Now we have full lifespan. Now what full lifespan does is the lifespan of a single particle. Suppose we select this lifespan to 10. Now what's gonna happen is that, let me just show you. Start it. Every particle is having a lifespan of 10 frames, meaning when a particle reaches the 10th frame, it's gonna disappear. And what you see here is that why it's stopping at this point is because all the frames which are reaching this point are dying, you know, so none of them is going like above this point. What you can do is increase the variation to have some variation in where the particle dies, you know. Some particles might die before and some particles might die after it. Now you can see there's some randomness, you know, some particles are dying above and some particles are now dying below, some particles on between. That's the lifespan. When full lifespan is on, you know, particles are not gonna die ever. And to me personally, I think you should keep this in mind whenever you are making any particle simulation, because suppose you have like a really complex scene where there's like a lot of particles, but you know, the particles are not even shown on the screen. What you can do is check the lifespan. If the particles, suppose like here, let me just show you. When the particle is going outside of my screen, why would you want to even show that, right? But like why it should even be there, because you're not even going to see that particle. So that's why you should always select the lifespan. You should always select how much particles should live, so that after some time they should die. Otherwise they are going to require a really lot, you know, processing power. That's why no intersection meaning you can pretty much understand by what it says that there's not going to be any intersection of particles. And there's like a radius, meaning the closest a particle can get to another particle is 10.03 centimeter. There's going to be a distance. So here what's happening is when I turn this on, the 10 centimeter is like so much that there's only particles coming from this side and not, you know, the other sides. So just decrease it, you know, to like 1 or something, and then it's gonna work properly. See here, now they are working properly. Don't have that like a really high. Then there's that emission ones. All right, now let's move to hexagonal. Hexagonal is pretty similar as well. So I don't find that much difference, right, in hexagonal. I kind of use both of them. Sometimes I want to use this, sometimes I want to use this. Both of them kind of look similar, you know, both of them have similar settings as well. Trigger is basically pretty advanced, so I'm not going to get into it, but it can be set by an action. I'm not going to talk about it. Trigger is pretty advanced stuff for now, and controlled only as well. So let's keep it on rate. And let's move on basic particle data. Now on default it's 150.4494, meaning that's the speed of each particle. Now you can have variation in the speed as well. You can basically have variation in a lot of things, you know, with lifespan, birth rate, stuff like that. Then we have radius of the particle, meaning how much the radius is of a particle. If I decrease the radius, what's gonna happen is the particles are just gonna become smaller. It's easy to understand. Now they are like 3.009. If I do like 1, they're gonna be pretty small. Now the reason you don't see any difference in the viewport is because this is just for displaying, alright? This is just for, you know, viewport. In reality, they are not like this much, big. In reality, they are, different size. Like if you are rendering them, they are gonna be like complete different size. So keep that in mind, guys, because when you are rendering, you are not rendering as these things are, alright? You're gonna be complete difference. I'm gonna show you how to render. I'm gonna use Redshift. You can use any other renderer, but it's gonna be pretty similar. All right. Now then we have scale. Now you can scale is pretty similar. Just gonna increase the size of it. On default, it's uniform scale. All right. Then we also have scale variation. And for the emitter, I'm just gonna talk about this much, all right, because we have a lot of the things to cover as well. And if I go to like everything in deep, I mean, I don't know how long the video is gonna be, so let's cover everything faster than this. All right, now you just see emitter. Now there should be things which should influence the particles, right? Now the particles are pretty linear. They are going in one direction. They are having no effect of the environment whatsoever. So we can create different environment. We can create gravity in it. So let me delete this X particles. And also one more thing I want to talk about is they already have made a preset which is XP system. It kinda organizes different things so that you would not have hard time to organize it yourself. Like it has stuff like nexus, dynamics, groups, emitters. So I already talked about emitters. So there's a subfolder for creating emitters, and all the emitters are gonna be inside it. So on default, there's gonna be an emitter similar to that. Then we have generators, utilities, modifiers, questions, actions. So all of these things, nexus, dynamics, all of these things are basically impacting the particles. Let's create a gravity. Now X particles, just recently there was something new which came out, which is there was an option to use GPU in simulation. And for using the GPU, you have to use this nexus, all right, and create nexus objects in order to use the GPU power rather than the CPU power. So all the old ones are gonna be like separate in this modifiers, in the dynamics and stuff like that. All right, if you want to use the GPU so that it renders fast, then you should use nexus ones. All right, so let's use the nexus for now, and they are pretty similar. All right, while you are using the CPU, there's gonna be more options to use. All right, because the CPU one was the one which came before, so there's more options, and the GPU is pretty new, so they don't have that many options, but they are gonna be fast. I'm just gonna use the nexus for making this video pretty fast. All right, let me make this XP emitter in Y plus direction. So there's that. Let's go on nexus, and what you have to do is click on this arrow right here, and what you have to do is click on nexus gravity, and the nexus gravity is already applied on the emitter. Now what you can see is, let's just come back, and you can see here is that all the particles are falling down, and that's because of gravity 981 centimeters. Basically, if you have studied about gravity, then you might know that the speed of gravity is 9.81 meters. That's not the speed, but that's the acceleration. All right, it's changing. That's not a constant speed, it's acceleration, it's a force. So keep that in mind. So it's constantly changing. Let me zoom here and you will understand. See, first it starts slow, then it kind of speeds up. If I do this to 0, then you will see no difference. All right, just like it was before. No impact. You can actually create reverse gravity. Suppose like if Earth was upside down, then that's what's gonna happen. All right, we are gonna fall above. I don't know if that makes sense, but sorry for using that terminology. So that's for creating gravity. It's pretty basic. All right, don't have to worry about that much because it's pretty easy setting. You can create a variation in the gravity as well, so it's not going to be the same every single time. Let's just delete this. Now another thing which is really important is, which you can use in your simulations, is turbulence. Turbulence, one of the most important things as well, which that creates a lot of randomness. Now you'll see what I'm talking about. So here you can see there's so much randomness created. All right, particles are flying a little bit here and there, as you can see. So you can see a good amount of randomness, and you can change those randomness as well. So on default, the noise type is set on simplex. Noise is what is generating it. It's a black and white value which kind of gives a random, value. So it's on simplex. Then we can use the curl, and it's gonna have a little bit curvier motion. You can see here. See, it's curving like that. Then we have turbulence. Like, I can't tell exactly what's happening, but just the noise type is changing, meaning the type of randomness is changed. All right. Then we have all the other options as well, which we can check, and all of them have different outcomes. And you can adjust those outcomes as well. Like now you can see the strength is set on 5. That's basically the intensity. Let's just make it 0. And now you see no impact because it's set on 0. Now let's max it out 100. It's gonna be really, really weird, alright? Don't do that. Just using for demonstration purpose, alright? Pretty funny, right? Don't do that, guys. Don't do that. I think 20. I would use 20, on max, not more than that. Even 20 is a lot higher. I don't do that much, guys. It's 5 is pretty good value, so keep it like that. Then we have scale. Scale is basically similar to what strength is, but scale is how much broad it can go. So let's just do it to like 0. And it's gonna have some similar effect to strength when we do it to 0, because it's like way too low. Alright, let's increase it. Now you can see a lot of difference. Let's just do like 1000 for now. See, it's like skewing so much, like here and there. Alright, but it's kind of following a path. The particles behind the ones which are kind of deflecting from the way, they are being followed by another subsets of particles. Alright, so it's kind of creating a pattern. It's not like completely random. I think like whenever you increase the strength, it's just kind of increasing the frequency as well as the amplitude of the simulation. But with scale, it's just moving more here and there. I mean, it's kind of like more like amplitude change. That's it. It's not changing the frequency of it. And that's it for the turbulence. I'm not going to talk about these things because they are pretty complex things to understand. We have other different modifiers right here that we can use. We can use wind, which kinda, it works like wind. You can understand easily if you put a fan somewhere, alright, how it's gonna work. It's gonna kind of push the particles in the opposite direction, right? So it's gonna do that. Then we have rotator. Rotator is gonna rotate the particles. Drag, it's gonna create a little bit disturbance in the movement and stuff like that. I can't talk about everything because it's gonna take a lot of time, so I'm keeping time in my mind so that it just does not become long. Let's use these fluids because it's kind of interesting, because I like using fluid simulation. I like kind of using fluid simulations in my animation, so I thought this would be pretty interesting. But before doing that, let's just create a plane. And I always get confused while creating a plane. Alright, let's make it go below, increase the size scale of it. And now what you have to do is, I want the particles to fall on this like fluid, but now on default the plane is not a part of the simulation. So for doing that, for making it a collider so that it collides with the fluid, what you have to do is add a tag on it. And how you can add is go in extensions, go in Insidium tags, and then just add the XP collider tag. Alright, now you'll see. Now again, I forgot to use the gravity on it because otherwise the particles are just gonna move above. Gravity is like a really important stuff, so don't forget doing that, using that. Now let's see. Boom. If I mesh this stuff up, it's gonna completely look like water, guys. And on default, the fluids are meant to look like water. If I increase the viscosity, it's gonna become more thicker and thicker, like honey or something like that. Alright, not gonna go in this. It's gonna be, I can make like single video on each of these modifiers. They are so vast. I'm not even gonna try to do that in a single video. So let's just not do that. Alright. Now what else you can do is that you can select the collider tag and change the settings here as well, like the bounce settings, the friction settings, the scatter settings. Bounce meaning how much the particles bounce on it. Friction, how much friction is there on the ground. Scatter, how much it scatters the particles around, and pretty easy to understand it and stuff like that. Again, I can create a whole new video on this topic, so let's see if I can do that in future. I just want to talk about like really important things so that you can get started with X particles, and then you can experiment different things. I feel like X particles is all about experimenting stuff, because experimentation is the only way to learn simulations, because there's like so much stuff. There's so much stuff. Now, as I said, if you are satisfied with what you have made, then you can cache it. How you can do is go in utilities and then use the XP cache. What you can do is build cache, and it's a pretty easy. The simulation is pretty simple, so it's pretty fast to cache it. If you have like a complex simulation, then it's gonna take a while. Now when it's created, it's gonna be really smooth. Alright, it's so smooth, there's no lag, and you don't even have to cache at this point, because it's not even complex. When the simulation is complex, I would recommend to do that at that stage only, or if you are doing the final rendering, because I'm gonna talk about like another advantage of caching, but only in the end you should cache, or like whenever the scene is really complex and your computer just can't play it in real time. Another thing you can see here is that, as I said, you cannot go reverse whenever you are using simulation, but now you can, because it's cached. It's saving the memory, so it's gonna be 100% accurate because it's saved in your memory, right? It's not generating the simulations again and again. It's saved on your drive permanently. But if you do any changes right now, these cache things are not gonna work. You have to cache again. Alright, so keep that in mind. The cache is only there for these settings which I have used. If you do any other little changes, it's not gonna work. Alright, so you have to build the cache again, and you can empty cache from here to delete the cache. Now what's the point of using these particles when you can't even see it? Because let's just see it, as you might wonder what the result might look. Let's just move into the space. Let's just move here. Let's see what's happening. And nothing is happening, because your renderer does not know what the particle is. It has no clue what a particle is. It has nothing. It's just gonna show the plane behind it. Alright, it's not gonna show the particles. For your render engine to realize that there is a particle simulation happening, you have to give a tag to the particles. Alright, so what you can do is click on XP emitter right here, and then what you can do is give it a render tag, and for that I have to first on the redshift, and now I can do that. Redshift object. Then you are gonna have this additional setting. If you put this object somewhere else, you're not gonna see this particles here, right? So here what you have to do is, on default it's disabled, you have to use optimized spheres, and now you can see right here. Alright, the color is gonna be same like it is right here. Alright, you can also change the scale multiplier here, alright, and make the particle small. I would not recommend doing that here because it's not accurate enough, but if the scene is pretty complex and you don't want to do it, then of course you can use that, but I would not recommend personally. It does not look accurate. In reality, the particles are not that small as you are shown, so the size increases the particle simulation a lot. If you actually want to change the particle radius, then as I said, you can change that from going here and then going in emission and change this from here. Alright, so let me delete the XP cache, alright, because it's kinda it is making it harder because I cannot change any settings. Keep in mind that when you have XP cache and you are trying to change, first delete it. Alright, now I can change the settings, but I have to recalculate again. And don't turn this redshift render view on while you are simulating. Alright, it's gonna take a lot of time. Let me add the render tag again and use the optimized spheres. Alright, So now you can kind of change the radius. And now when you change the radius, you have to simulate the animation again, alright? Now you can see the radius is 1 centimeter, as you can look right here, guys. So keep that in mind. If I change it now, you have to simulate it again, alright? Let's just make it 10. They're gonna be like really huge. Let's see what's gonna happen. See, there's like such a big distance, you know. The reason is because they are so far away from each other, because as I said, they are big. In reality, see, so big, right? So that's how you can change the radius and stuff like that, and it's gonna affect how it looks. Now you might think, how can I make it look like real water? Because let's just see what's gonna happen, alright? It does not look like real water because they are particles, alright? They are not meshed. They look like particles, and for creating fluids, you have to mesh the particles. And how you can do that is by clicking on this generators and create open VDB measure, and then drag the XP emitter inside this, alright? Now see, now they are gonna look like water. Now still you don't see it. The reason is because you have to do some settings before. So on default, you get these settings, and you can decrease the point radius so that it decreases the radius of these small circle looking, you know, stuff. They are basically creating a volume out of the particles, alright? Kind of joining them. Then you can decrease the voxel size to like 1. Let's do 1. And keep in mind that the point radius should always be higher than the voxel size, alright? Otherwise it's not gonna work. Now you might see they are still looking like balls. The reason is because we have like really low amount of particles right here, alright? We need more particles. So we can increase the birth rate, or we can just select the emission mode to regular. Now let's simulate it again. It's gonna take a while because it takes a lot of time to calculate, you know, in regular mode. Plus we have these voxels on them, you know. Now what else we can do here is go to VDB measure and select use filters, alright? And the filter kind of, you know, attaches these particles, tries to attach, you know. That's what it does, and kind of smooths the distance between the particles, alright? What I think is we have decreased the point radius and stuff like that a lot. You kind of have to adjust between these things in order to make it look like water. So what we can do is increase the voxel size a little bit. First turn this off, because you know, both things happening the same time, it's gonna take a lot more time. Increase the point radius at the same time as well, alright? Whenever you're increasing the voxel size. Now you can see it here that this looks pretty good now. And of course you can adjust between different settings, keep it animating. You can always try to change the settings a little bit. You can do a lot of stuff, you know. Of course I can't explain everything in a single video, so you know, it's gonna take a while for that. But for now I guess it's more than enough for you to digest. I can come up with different other stuff so that you can understand it properly, but for now it's more than enough. And so let's just delete this redshift object. We just want to see the mesh right here, alright? So we have the mesh, and for making it look like water, we have a preset in redshift material for creating water. And select water and just put it on open VDB measure, and there you go. We have something that looks like water. Of course there's nothing close to it. Let's just create a light, redshift light, area light. Wait a second. For creating whenever you create water and stuff like that, and it's creating on a volume, alright? It's a volume, it's not a simple shape. So it takes a lot of time to calculate this while rendering as well. Creating fluid simulation, it takes a lot of time overall for rendering as well as simulating. So always keep that in mind. And let's just move this somewhere here. Turn on the, now you can see it looks like water. And let's just create something cool looking. All right, delete everything. I wanted to create this when I started the video. It's not gonna be that difficult to make, but it's gonna look really good. All right, make plane, kind of scale it. All right, and so let's make it. Let's create emitter and change the direction in the y plus, so it emits like this. Let's add a rotator. Let's create XP system, change the emitter plane to y plus direction. Let's see if it's happening. Yep, it's happening. Let's add a rotation, an X rotate, and right now it's kinda rotating on the other side, but we don't want it. So again, change the direction of it. Press R and rotate it like 90 degrees. And let's see time. Boom. Looks fine, right? Like that. We can do a lot of different stuff as well. I feel like I should increase the traction a little bit. Let's do it 100. Yeah, that looks sick. Let's decrease the rotate speed, I mean, to like 60, I think so. Yeah, 60 would be good. Yep, that looks good. Yeah. And we can add other stuff as well. This is pose for now. Alright, velocity is pretty, I mean, it's linear. Force is kind of acceleration, So I feel like in our case, this would be better. We can obviously increase the velocity, rotation speed. I mean, this looks so, weird, but pretty funny. Yeah, this looks sick as well. What I can do is that add a little bit of turbulence to create some randomness, Let's see now. Yep, this looks fire as well. All right. What else we can change here? Let's create NX scale. Now NX scale is basically gonna change the scale of a particle. So let's see. Yep. Let me add redshift tag to this so that we can see what's happening. Optimized spheres, and there you can see what's happening. Here it's the particles are really small, and here they are like very big. So I think it's like really big. We don't need that much difference. I think we can make like a little bit different, decrease it. But yeah, let's see now how it looks. Turn this off, please. I feel like a little bit more we can do that. 0.07. Let's see this. Yep, this looks good. I feel like 0.05 would be better. I'm kind of like a perfectionist, you know. Yeah, this looks good. I feel like we should decrease the rotate speed, because it's so frequent that we don't even see any change right here. I feel like 40 would be good for now. Yeah, this looks fine for now. What else I want to do is I'm just gonna make emission type to regular. I want like more particles. This is, you know, few particles, and it's also gonna change how this looks. All right, and this was what I wanted. I forgot to change this to regular. Now it came in my mind. All right, we can add more rotation to it now. 180. Let's do it now. No, not that much. That's a lot. 120. I feel like it was 120 already, right? 120 is still a lot. Go to like 90. Yep, now it's good. And we also have turbulence, so keep that in mind, guys. Yeah, that looks good. There's some amount of turbulence which makes it look good. You know, that looks sick. I mean, even it was so easy to make. It did not even take that much time, and it's creating so much, like, so better results. You know. So, yeah. I like it like really densed most of the time, so I'm just gonna do that as well. Let's do to like 30%, and I know it's gonna take a lot of time, but who cares? No, it does not take a lot of time. It's pretty fast. I mean, we can decrease it even more, you know. I mean, sure, why not? Now it's taking some time. On 10% it kinda, you know, goes down. And let's try to render this. Redshift materials, and I'm gonna tell method to render with redshift like in a very good way, where we can have attributes. Standard. Let's use color user data. Now with X particles there's also one cool thing that you can assign materials to different attributes, you know, according to different attributes. Like this is color user data. All right, we can use scalar user data. We can use scalar user data. Let me delete this. Always get confused between those two. All right, scalar user data, and here you can use age normalized, I guess so. You can use a ramp. Just follow me for now. I know it can get a little confusing, but it's gonna look great. All right, let's use this on the emitter. Now the reason why it's black is because we have to set a lifespan for this. All right, so let's have it to 90 frames. Let's rewind. Let's do it on 61st frame, and let's do rather than age normalizer, let's do life. turn it on. See the difference. Let's do age. You can check a lot of stuff, you know, by this. Yeah, now you can see. I feel like we should decrease it even a little bit more, like to 60. Start again. $60. See now. Let's use a ramp or let's use a preset for the ramp. I like using this full colors, you know, it's really good looking. And I don't need that, but I need age normalized one. Yep, the age normalized one kind of separates it even, you know, so I like that about it. That's looking good, and without any shading. This is like default one. It looks awful on default. Let's use a area light. See, with area light it's gonna look sick, the shading and everything. Let me disable this for now, and we can create another one on the opposite side, kind of flip it 180 degrees. It's lagging a lot, guys, you know, of course it's gonna lag. I mean, what was expected out of this? Let's come close. Of course I can cache it, you know, but if I want to do any changes, I will not be able to do that. Let's see from this angle. Yep, looks good. I'm just gonna disable turbulence because it's making it look awkward in my opinion. And another thing which I'm gonna do is to XP emitter and decrease the radius even more. I want it to look even, you know, even better. And let's also, another thing which I can do is decrease the height of this. I want it kind of looking like a rectangle, you know, it would be better. Let's do it to like 50. Yep, let's simulate. I feel like I should increase the rotation now. Done 40. Alright, so here we have this. Ooh. So yeah guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to like this video and consider subscribing to this channel. If you want to see more tutorials like this, I'll be happy to make more tutorials, of course. You know, the only thing with this X particles is that it takes pretty good amount of time to make all this stuff, alright, you know, simulations, because it's time consuming. Most of the times whenever I'm simulating stuff, it generally takes about 3 to 4 hours to create something good, you know. In this video I kind of tried to make things pretty fast, but you know, you just cannot get good results in this much time, you know. You just need to kind of experiment stuff, then try again, and then, you know, keep on doing that, and it takes a lot of time to simulate as well. So yeah guys, that's it for this video. See you in the next one. Peace. Thanks for watching guys. Bye bye.